Somebody asked me recently what was my personal recovery like and what did I do to overcome my pornography addiction. I decided that would be a good idea to make a blog post out of my response. I still consider myself to be work in progress and I do not view my pornography addiction as the root of my problems. Instead, I view it as my drug of choice that I use to deal with my problems. By the time I realized I had a serious problem with pornography, I was spending around 40 hours a week, an equivalent to a full-time job, watching porn. My personal relationship was almost ruined and I was a psychological mess. My first major breakthrough happened because my girlfriend kept on complaining that something was different about me. I remember that I used to get angry with her, thinking that she didn't realize how good she had it. I would think that all men cheated and I was just watching porn. As I progressed further into my addiction, I couldn't help but notice a series of negative events that began to take place in my life. I was struggling to keep up with school, I was always late and tired, I was always down, and it felt like the only true thing that I enjoyed in life was pornography. When I watched it, I was happy. Everyday life would just annoy me with its inconveniences. I knew that I wanted to have a good job and a family, but getting there was just too hard. One day I was watching pornography in my car when I realized that I was late for my test. I closed my laptop and ran off. When I came back, I found my car broken into and my laptop gone. That evening, my friend and I went to a strip club to help me feel better. My friends had got tired and wanted to go home, but I couldn't get myself to walk away. Observing the consequence of my actions and my inability to walk away forced me to suspect that maybe there is something wrong with me, after all. I do not remember how I came to find out about the book by Dr. Carnes, but I remember that I went to my school library trying to check out a book by him called Out of the Shadows. The book was already checked out and I got another book by the same author titled Don't Call It Love. I remember reading this book and realizing that I could connect with almost every story. I reviewed all of the things that I did as a teenager, how I chose to cope with my daily struggles, and that sex and pornography were the only places where I could find comfort. After reading this book, I knew I had a problem. Shortly after, I confessed my discovery to my girlfriend. She was terrified but decided to stay with me and to support me through my recovery. This was my first major breakthrough. Just a few years before I discovered that I had sex addiction, I was able to quit smoking. I quit cold turkey and decided to use the same approach once again. I tried using my willpower for a while, and the longest period of sobriety I was able to achieve was 2 weeks. After that, I would sleep every time, tell myself that I did it anyway, might as well enjoy it, and indulge in long periods of acting out. I finally had enough after about a year of trying and failing. I remember my last 2 sleep hours before my second major breakthrough. By then, I was seeing a therapist and had an internet filter installed on my laptop. The filter did little to stop my behavior since I knew the password and I would turn it off when I wanted to act out. One night, after 3-4 hours of pornography watching, I went to relieve myself, saw my red face in the mirror, and began to cry, saying that I was sorry. I cried for a while, and then went to watch more porn to make myself feel better. I repeated the cycle 2 more times before I was able to cry myself to sleep. Right around that time, a friend of mine sent me a documentary that concluded with this story. One evening, an old Cherokee told his grandson about a battle that goes inside all people. He said, "My son, the battle is between 2 wolves inside us all. One is evil, it's anger, envy, jealousy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. The other is good, it's joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith." The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, "Which wolf wins?" The old Cherokee simply replied, "The one you feed." About 2 days after this, I was spending weekend at my mother's house, where I spent another 5-6 hours watching pornography. I used my sister's laptop, while my grandmother's was next door. This was when I finally had enough. I realized that I really had to do something differently if I wanted to stop my behaviors. I wrote out a list of all the things that I could do to feed my right wolf. My list included monitoring my emotions, eating healthy, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, doing daily cardio exercise, meditation, exposure and response prevention techniques that I've learned from the book titled Kill the Craving. I think learning the exposure response techniques and making a daily practice of my preventing measures was my second major breakthrough. My approach to feeding the right wolf worked, and I was able to stay sober for a month. I began noticing that I was getting sloppy in my daily practices, and I needed more of professional help. After some research, I signed up for Candeo Can program. I was on Candeo Can program for about 4 months, and by that time I was able to sustain from pornography viewing for close to 5 months. The problem, however, rests in the fact that I slowly stopped relying on the healthy outlets to deal with my daily problems. I thought that as long as I was not viewing pornography, my other problems would take care of themselves, which was not the case. Soon I found myself spending all of my free time on non-sexually related websites and watching TV. Essentially, I was using this media for the same purpose that I've used pornography before, to escape reality. Towards the end of the 4th month, I began to watch a lot of rated R movies. Because I knew I was very likely to find some nudity there, and the horror part gave me an additional jolt. The summer came around and I began to notice a lot of attractive women in the street. I knew that lusting after women was bad, but I used to tell myself that it was okay to admire their beauty. Soon my old spiral began to unwrap, and I noticed myself slipping farther and farther back into my addiction. At the same time, all other areas of my life began to fall apart as well. I found myself in debt, I began to argue more with my girlfriend, and then my schoolwork was falling apart. I was so mad at the Candida Camp program, and they've told me that if I was to stop watching pornography, my life would be back in order. I did stop, but the life was still a mess. I thought they lied to me, and I felt cheated out. I felt powerless, and I began reading 12-step literature, which I consider to be my third breakthrough. The hardest part of my third breakthrough was coming clean to my girlfriend. I knew how much pain it would cause her, and I couldn't bring myself to do it, but I also couldn't think of any other way. I wasn't watching pornography, but one day I made a leap from watching a horror movie with nudity to finding a way around filtering and Googling a video that I knew would have explicit nudity in it. After the nudity went, however, I could no longer lie to myself that I was sober, and I came clean to my girlfriend. She was crushed. She thought we were doing so well, she was so happy with the progress that she thought I was making, and all of a sudden it all was scratched. Her world was turned upside down, and I was again to blame for it. This night I took my first of the 12 steps of Sex Addicts Anonymous and admitted that I was powerless over my addiction. This happened 3 months ago, and it was my fourth breakthrough. Since then I went back to the drawing board and had to rethink all the things that worked and did not work for me. I finally got myself to read the rest of the books on the pornography addiction I've purchased a long time ago. I learned a lot of new stuff from them and gained some very good perspective. I started attending the two 12-step meetings on a regular basis. I now have friends and a lot of support in my recovery. I also learned the great value of proper journaling, how it can be beneficial to my recovery. Candida Camp taught me to journal, but I wasn't doing it properly. Treating pornography addiction gets the credit for that. Through proper journaling, I was able to identify most of the triggers and internal lies that I was telling myself through my life. Until today, I'm journaling daily and keep finding new stuff that have been pre-programmed into my head. I work on replacing those lies with the positive things that I do want in my life, and I believe in from the bottom of my heart. Journaling and attending a 12-step group was my fifth breakthrough. Even though I was doing well, there was one thing that kept on bothering me that I did not yet have an answer to. I kept feeling the emptiness inside me that I did not know how to fill. I remember when I was a sophomore in high school, we had an alcoholic come to give us a speech about the dangers of alcohol. She went on to say that all her life she felt shyness, unhappiness, and emptiness inside, and finally found something that could fill it: alcohol. She told us that it was a mistake and that we shouldn't use alcohol to fix our problems. That it was not a solution, but she never told us what the solution was. Since then, I've been struggling with this question: what can I use to fill this emptiness inside of me? And I couldn't find an answer. Having had a few alcoholics in my family, I knew that alcohol and drugs was not the solution. This is why I believe I turned to sex and pornography instead. I believed it was a healthy way out. It was a way out, alright, but I now know that it was far from healthy. About a month ago, I accidentally bought a book on Amazon that was about 115 pages long, entitled "With Practice in Mind." I have no memory of making that decision, but it must have been due to all the positive reviews that this book got. For some reason, this simple book has answered this big question I couldn't find the answer to in other hundreds of self-books that I've read through my life. The answer was very simple, but it would probably require a separate post. For now, I will say that my problems mainly came from being focused on results and not on the process. The approach of always seeking more and more results created a feeling of emptiness and constant dissatisfaction. This was my sixth breakthrough. Even with all this new gained knowledge, I still found myself falling back into old habits. I would keep on tricking myself into believing that I could accidentally see something exciting and it would be okay because after all it was an accident. I would also tell myself that my girlfriend would never know because these were just innocent websites that I used for almost innocent purposes. This line of thinking was happening at the subconscious level, and I was able to identify it and bring it to surface through journaling. This knowledge helped me to take a final step that I knew I needed to take a long time ago: use of accountability software. I told my girlfriend how to check my web history inside the filter on my computer, and she goes through it every week now to help me stay honest. This was my seventh and final breakthrough so far. I'm sure there will be more to come, but in 2 days I'll be completely honestly sober for 85 days, and I'm very thankful for it. It's important for me to remember that the amount of time I stay sober is just a number, a simple byproduct of the process of being sober that I enjoy so much, one moment at a time.